Welcome back to my type of Tesla review, which is pretty much unedited, unsponsored, kind of even unplanned and off the cuff, because I figured if you are interested in this car, if you're considering this car, you might want to hear from somebody that really just tells you what the car can't do and how it feels, without any ulterior motive, but just to really convey the exact owner experience. And this being my third Tesla and 6 years in those, I think I can do that for you. Welcome. Welcome back then to my most random content creation. It's been literally years since I posted on this YouTube channel, I think. But I have a few things that I think are worth an update, and to fill you all in on that and give you a first-hand perspective on the progress and the status of the Tesla in the EV world, since I've been around that now for 5 years. Even without the chime, I detected the red traffic light and came to a full stop. So welcome. This is a Tesla Model S Plaid. As you can probably see, it's the second iteration of the Model S. I had a 2016 Model S. I drove that for 3 years, traded it for a late 2018 Model 3 Performance. My Model S was a 70D, and obviously that was a major step up from the 5.4 seconds about that Model S 70D had in 0 to 60 to the Model 3 Performance, which I still think in regards to bang for the buck is probably the best deal that Tesla offers or offered. And then after that, and with my Cybertruck on order, I figured I'll drive something else. And I went this summer of 21, and bought the brand new Audi e-tron GT that pretty much the day it came out. Bought a demonstrator that they hadn't even put into use off the dealer floor, and Audi was clearly not exactly sure what to expect with electric vehicles, although the underpinnings is the same as a Porsche Taycan, so it's basically the same car, and Porsche has been very successful with those. Audi didn't really seem to trust their electric sales, so they gave the demonstrator away right away. I had that car for a little bit of 3 months and decided to sell it, because it was like going from an iPhone 12 to a old Android. Not that it's a bad car. Audis are very well built, kind of everybody knows this, and it was a good looking car too, but so cumbersome in all the operations, the user interface, absolutely legacy car maker compromises everywhere. So I couldn't stand it. I went back, I pre-ordered a Plaid online. The delivery times tended to shift around, and I happened to go by the local Tesla service center just to look what they had out there, to get an idea of how the cars now really looked. I hadn't seen the Yoke in real life, and come across a Model S Plaid that was on the lot that the customer refused to take delivery of. Here we go. So 3 days later, I was in that car. They transferred my reservation over, got me this car, got me ready, and it's slightly differently spec'd than I would have gotten mine, because after all the black cars I had prior, I was going to go for a different color. And I also was going to try the white interior seats, since we live in South Florida and it gets very hot in the summer. And even with a tint in the glass roof, you can feel the heat kind of burning through. But the car that was sitting on the lot was pretty much the same spec as all my other cars prior, black. So I like it visually. But it came on the 19-inch wheels with the aero caps, and those aero caps are a different sort of ugly, in my opinion, regardless of the range. And I asked the dealer to pull back the wheel caps, and lo and behold, there's some really good-looking 19-inch wheels under that I then ordered hubcaps for, and I kept those on the car because I had the 21-inch Arachnid wheels on my prior Model S, and they are so prone to curb rash, it's not even funny. And besides that, you also hear that they compromise ride quality, but they look great, no doubt. The 21s look really good on the car, but I'm not hating these 19s, especially since the new 21s only come in a matte black, and I am not a fan of the matte black compared to the anthracite kind of high gloss finish that the 21s had when I got my first Model S. These 19s have the same kind of dark gray anthracite metallic color, and I think they look great on the car. And so far, most people that I talked to that saw the car kind of like agreed. So I have about 500 miles now on this Plaid, and I don't care what anybody says. Am I biased? Probably, because it's my third Tesla. But do I have an open mind? Did I buy another premium EV in between? The Audi was about $120,000. To compare it and thinking everybody has this game now figured out, I don't think they do. The overall Tesla experience that they are able to create with these cars, by not being hindered by trying to conform to certain things what people think they expect. In the Audi, you had to have a key, you had to unlock it, you had to push a start stop button, you have to go through several sub menus in the menu to get to where you want to be. It's so cumbersome compared to the Tesla driving experience, and the user interface, which to this new Model S has again become significantly better. Tesla is just still ahead of the pack in that regard, and I'm curious to see of the Lucids and the Rivians and all those that are coming out now also as clean slate products are really able to pick up on that. In the meantime, if you're thinking about buying an EV and you don't know which brand you want to buy, Tesla is now probably going close to building 1 million cars this year. They got so much experience in this game now. They know from all the user data they are collecting over the permanently connected cars, so much about the what people are using, what they're not using, how they're using it. I think that gives them a heads up on the competition that is still being underestimated by other manufacturers. But ultimately, I opted for a Plaid and not a long range, partially because of the delivery time frame, because the Plaid seemed to be available much quicker than any other version, but obviously also partially because of the ludicrous performance specs that you can get with this car, and that's just something that I had to kind of try out for myself. And we'll get to that in a second, and I'll show you the different performance modes. And actually, I bought my little Draggy, very accurate little device, which I'm going to use to run this car 0 to 60 in the different modes. So I'm going to start with chill mode, go to sport mode, go to Plaid mode, go to drag strip mode, cheetah stance, launch, and kind of see what we're ending up with in the performance numbers. With a stock car on 19-inch wheels, my battery is 90% about right now. That's what it lets you charge on a daily level, and that gives me about 350 miles indicated range, which is also better than what you got prior. So 240 miles was on the S70D. When I bought the Model S70D, I was one of the first people in this area that had a Tesla, and there was no supercharger anywhere close. The service center was 150 miles from me in Tampa, so it was very cumbersome to drive this car. But over time now, it's changed so much, and now if you drive here, by the way, this is exactly the specs out here of that older Model S, that what my car was. Now you see hundreds of Teslas. The delivery center here is packed, and gonna get out of the car real quick and show you a couple of different things, so just that you can compare it side by side, speaking about the wheels and the interior of the car. So here's my new Model S Plaid 2021. I just took delivery of that about 10 days ago. Had it ceramic coated for a nice little gloss, and I'm actually at the local service center, and it is so busy with cars ready for delivery all around you. There's plenty of cars out here and a good number of Plaids. And what I wanted to show you real quick was these are the standard hubcaps on the 19-inch wheels, and I thought they did not look attractive at all. However, when I looked under it, what I found out is that on that car actually are really pretty 19-inch wheels just hidden underneath. All I did was buy those little center caps to put on there, and I think this is a great looking wheel. Has like a BBS type of look a little bit to it. I made no other changes besides that and the ceramic coating to the car, except for that little Plaid badge on the back, which I stuck on next to the letters because the letters were a little minimalistic. There's one other thing though that I took off, and that is the license plate frame in the front. All the cars seem to get delivered with a license plate frame now, since it was crash tested that way. They said they have to deliver them that way, and you have to peel it off yourself. And that took a little bit of work, and you don't want to damage the paint or ding the bumper. And one other big difference in the new cars is, and you can see it here also in the one that's parked on the white one better, ventilated seats. Thank God. The seats are much better than they used to be in my 2016. I mean, class is better, but with the ventilated seats that automatically go in and out with the air conditioning, you have a really comfortable interior climate now, which before was always a little bit of a battle. Okay, so we're back in the car. I'm gonna save you the whole interior tour and the details, because there's a lot of good videos I saw out there on YouTube that are dealing with all of that and explaining all of that, except for just a couple of little tidbits. The one is the predictive gear shift is not anything that should scare you away or that's made out what it used to be. So you're shifting your gears with swiping on the screen, but the car will predict right now that I'm backed up against another car behind me that most likely I will want to drive forward. However, it will not just drive by itself and let you wander. It will tell you to tap the brake first, then it tells you that it will go forward if you now hit the gas. The instructions on the screen are as clear as can be. It does it about every other time when you park somewhere, go somewhere, where it tries to predict where you want to go. So far it's just done it correctly for me, and if you don't like whatever it wants to tell you, you simply swipe the screen in the other direction and pick the gear that you want, which otherwise works totally fine. So that's kind of like a no-brainer. The other thing that everybody has been talking about is the yoke, and how do you drive and maneuver with a yoke? And people try to make it look really impossible to turn a corner, and which obviously is stupid, because I used to turn corners even with a round steering wheel with one hand, and you can do exactly the same thing with a yoke. So in any kind of tighter turning maneuvers, I just use one hand. I do that. When you drive under normal circumstances in like a, not a 10 and 2, it's more like a 4 and 8, it's actually super comfortable. It is wider on the rim, your hands fit on there comfortably, the rest on the middle armrest and the door. Very comfortable driving position. But does it make sense overall? Could it go wrong? Yes, I can see that, because if you turn the wheel and you hit the end, your hand could slightly slip off, and if there's no wheel in that second where you have your hand on, you could end up in a slightly different direction than you anticipated. And I found myself the other day actually in a parking lot where somebody backed out in my direction doing this. There's no more horn. And to relearn that muscle memory that the horn is now on that outside, that might take a little bit of time. A car next to me actually hit the horn before I was able to, and that other car stopped. But this is one of those things. It's a learning experience, and I'm not sure if it is that beneficial. Same with the turning indicators. Not hard to get used to, but you got to think about it a little bit, because obviously there's no more stock for those either. There are on buttons on the steering wheel, left, right, a little bit of a ridge in between, so you can kind of feel where it is. The lower is left, the upper is right. Once you know it, you get used to it. But does that really make the car better? Does that change make sense? I'm not convinced. But do I like the novelty? I'm an early adopter of technology. I love anything that's new and different. Gives you a great view. So that's, you know, that's I think is cool. But I don't think it's better. On the other hand, speaking about things being better from a driver experience, this car came a long way. And I said this briefly earlier. The orientation of the screen and landscape now also on the Model S works perfectly fine, gives you more room for the radio next to the screen. Although the horizontal orientation had its advantages, because when you're driving you could see a longer roadway going up, but this, you're not running out of real estate on this screen. The operation is better, the seats, the ventilation, the air conditioning, the fit and finishes, the look of the door panels, the inlays, the center console. They put so much room in this thing, and the way you can open and close it and get to everything. The inductive car chargers, there's 4 iPhone or cell phone chargers, 2 in the front, 2 in the center console, in the rear, that are inductive, additional USB-C outlets. It's a very user-friendly car in that regard. You really have room to store your stuff in this car, which I always tend to run out of. There's always more things that I have than I think I do have in the car otherwise. So that's all great. The car is quieter than the first one, but is it really super quiet? Probably not. And I just got the update to 40.6, I think, the latest software iteration, which is supposed to have the active noise cancellation enabled for the front seats. There's actually microphones built into the front seats. They're supposed to detect certain frequencies and then counteract it with noises created through the speakers to bring the interior volume down, especially for low frequencies. But the new software update had everything except that, so I'm still waiting on that. Can't tell you really at this point what that will do, so we'll find out. If you have not been in a Tesla before, or you haven't owned one, there's a couple of things that I think will stand out to you, because they're simply better than in any other car that I had or I have driven. One of them being the navigation system. It is so easy, so intuitive. You program it simply really by voice. You tell it where you want to go, not by address, but simply tell it where you want to go, the destination, the name of it. It will find it pretty much 100%. We now have waypoints, thank God, on the map, so you can go to a destination over different waypoints. And the second thing is the sound system, which obviously I'm not going to demonstrate right now, and it wouldn't come across through the iPhone. But the sound quality and the ability to use different streaming services in here, I think at this point is still unmatched by other manufacturers, except you opt for a ridiculous upgrade high-end audio system, whereas here this is the standard of what you get on the S, and it really plays with the very best, like, no doubt about it. On the highway, and right now I'm going about the speed limit on the highway here. You can tell the predominant noise is tire noise. There's not a lot of wind noise really in this car, but the tire noise is clearly there, and it's louder than in comparable cars or cars in this price range, because overall this Plaid at $140,000 needs to let itself compare with other high-end cars and high-end EVs. In regards to interior road noise at the highway, I really hope that this active noise cancellation makes a difference, but otherwise it is not the quietest car. Is it annoyingly loud? No, it's not, but it clearly is not as quiet as some of their luxury competitors. As far as the autopilot or full self-driving or enhanced safety systems are concerned, it is significantly better. I've driven the new Audis, I've driven the new BMWs, the Mercedes. None of their road holding systems, adaptive cruise controls, and I have not driven the Cadillac one, which is supposedly very good, are as easy and as foolproof as the Tesla. This does not mean I would trust the car to do the driving for me, not in enhanced autopilot or autopilot mode, and not in the FSD scenario, because ultimately I still think we're quite a ways away from this being perfect. But if you are driving in predominantly two scenarios, in normal traffic on a highway or in stop and go in the city, this will take 50% of the stress away from your driving, because in those scenarios it will do a flawless job, in my experience now, over tens of thousands of miles in these cars. However, I did order FSD for the Model 3 and the enhanced autopilot and the S before. I bought this one without FSD. I actually had them remove the FSD before I took delivery, and I will wait this out for a few months, and then I will subscribe at, I think, $199 a month to it, instead of spending $10,000 for an option that I honestly did not get any good use out of in my Model 3 Performance, after I paid, I think, $8,000 back in 2018 for it. 7 or 8, can't exactly recall right now. So I'm going to hold off for now, and I'm just going to use the standard autopilot functions, which still has the lane holding and the, you know, adaptive cruise control and all that. The one difference is, though, if you don't have FSD, you cannot do lane changes, not auto lane changes, but not even regular lane changes, without it disconnecting. Because the moment when you hit the turning indicator, it will disengage, and then you have to manually re-engage it when you're in the other lane, which I think that's a little bit of a shortcoming, because by turning the turning indicator on like it worked before, and it does work on FSD and a lot of other cars, you can then change the lane without disengaging the lane holding feature. Doesn't make much sense, but one of those little quirks that you're getting used to. So after all these explanations and the talking about the car and the general experience, let's go on a close vote just quickly and see what the car can do in the different settings and setups from 0 to 60, so we have some numbers to back this up. Let's see how close we can get to the 2-second mark, which, as per Tesla, is achieved with a fully charged car on a specially prepared sticky surface and so forth with a 1-foot rollout. So that's not a number you're going to hit on any normal road in normal driving, but let's see what we can do. Now, for the first experiment, putting the car in chill mode, and we're going to go and see in this mode what our 0 to 60 time is going to be. Okay, are we ready?
$30, $60,
.21 seconds, 0 to 60 in chill mode. Same experiment, this time in sport mode.
30, 60.
Well, compared to the 7.21 seconds in chill mode, in our sport mode we already get there in 3.58 seconds. So that's 2 stages of the 4 stages down, and we're already blowing the doors off most other cars that are out there by going in 3.58 seconds.
Half mile.
Test number 3. Let's see what the Plaid can do in Plaid mode, but no drag strip mode and nothing else, about a 85% battery.
60.
2.45 seconds. 0 to 60 with no other ado. And on 19-inch wheels, 85% battery, no drag launch. That is damn impressive. For max performance, you set it up like this. Press the brake, press the gas, let the car settle down in cheetah stance. When it's ready, it will tell you ready for launch, and then you just let it fly.
30, 60.
And that was that. Well, there you have it. Not that this is necessarily functional or necessary, for that matter, in any kind of normal driving circumstances. It is mind-boggling what this thing can pull off, but I think it is a case where this car actually has more forward momentum than it has brakes. I read this now a couple of times and I do believe it. The last stage is really not necessary. Tesla is bringing out a $20,000 accessory package in 22 with carbon ceramic brakes and 410mm rotors, which if you actually want to explore the limits of this thing on a track, I think would be a smart $20,000 to spend, because I do not believe that the brakes in this car will be able to otherwise handle the horsepower. It just has not been done before, and I don't think it's doable. But if you keep the car on sport mode in normal driving, you'll be just fine with more horsepower and acceleration than you need in any normal driving situation. Plaid is for fun and close roads, I would say. Or if you really got to get from 0 to 60 very quickly because you're in a jam. But the other side is that this car is a very spacious, comfortable, everyday cruiser with marginal maintenance, as far as I can tell from my previous Teslas. Room for 5. I mean, somebody sat in the back seat the other day, 6'3", plenty of room behind me, very comfortable seats, enough room to haul the groceries or the Christmas tree around in this car, enough range to really do anything you want to do. So it's kind of like a supercar beating performance machine that will be totally capable as a daily driver, which is what it is for me. So and at that price, although it is a lot of money, relatively speaking, it is a bargain for the performance. There's no other car that doesn't cost a multiple of this car cost that comes even close. So that's that. If you got any questions, let me know in the comments. In a year or two, I might post another update. In the meantime, have fun, go buy a Tesla.